Headlines matter, some more than others. This morning in Politico, America prepares for war. The New York Times, for Trump, military strike in Iran could serve symbolic purpose. The Wall Street Journal, in first, U.S. deploys combat jets to Israel for potential wartime mission. The Washington Post, Iran, U.S. resume nuclear negotiations as Trump's war clock ticks down. The Economist, Americans have no idea what the president wants from Iran. There is a core assumption in all these headlines and the journalism propelling them. Something is about to happen. The massive U.S. military buildup in the Middle East can no longer be viewed as a coercive diplomatic flex. What is there, including elite F-22 fighter jets and 2 carrier strike forces, can sustain aerial attacks for weeks. Congress fears this is coming. A vote in the House is planned next week to demand President Trump engage with Congress and explain his war plans. That schedule, however, appears behind the pace of things. Interestingly, CBS News polling shows 72% of Americans do not think the administration has clearly explained the U.S. position on military action against Iran. 53% told us they oppose war maneuvers to prevent Iran from making nuclear weapons. We are devoting the entire hour of this show to what appears a threshold decision for President Trump. War with Iran, yes or no? Is it about nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, and support of terrorism in the region? And if so, how can America get its way without coercing regime change? And even then, how can it and our allies be certain of future outcomes? How close is Iran to a nuclear bomb? Could it be placed on a warhead and launched with accuracy? How weak is the theocratic revolutionary regime that has bedeviled America and destabilized the region for decades? Is the Iranian regime on the verge of toppling, needing only a relatively low-risk military push? President Trump said Tuesday Iran's regime has killed 32,000 protesters for the Iranian people. What is their future with or without a regime that reflexively reaches for bloodshed and torment as an answer to dissent? We cannot answer all those questions, but we can try to make some meaningful headway, and we will. So let us begin. We start tonight with our Charlie Daggett, who comes to us from Tel Aviv, monitoring the U.S. military buildup in the region, and Imtiaz Tyab, who is in London, closely tracking today's negotiations between the United States and Iran and Geneva. Charlie, let's start with you. What do we know? What do you see? What is the feeling there in the region?
Yeah, Major, you just set the stage. And if it sounds like I'm going through what sounds like a shopping list of U.S. military assets in the region, it's exactly that. You mentioned in that lead up the F-22 stealth fighter jets that have arrived here or are on the way to Avda base here in Israel. That's a first, as far as I'm aware, to have the United States' most advanced fighters actually on the soil here. On the way, the USS Gerald R. Ford, that we know has left, from my own contacts, has left the Suda Bay port in Crete, on the way to the Eastern Mediterranean. We hear it might even come to Haifa here in Israel. In addition to that, you have the USS Abraham Lincoln. You're talking about 12, 13, 14 guided missiles, destroyers, and cruisers. So we are talking about a lot, much more than would be a deterrent. And when you speak to U.S. officials that are part of the CENTCOM, Central Command area of operations or area of responsibility, this isn't just about the possibility of an attack against Iran, giving the president those options from limited strikes to a prolonged conflict, but this is about troop force protection as well. And that's where you need to have the carriers with squadrons of F-35s and F-18 fighter jets, the interceptors, the Patriots, the THAAD missile defenses. Israel came under attack last year in the 12-day war with Iran. The United States couldn't stop some of those missiles from hitting not far from here, just a couple blocks away, getting through Israel's vaunted Iron Dome system. That's what they're preparing for. And more is on the way, again, by the hour, Major.
Imtiaz, you just heard Charlie describe the hardware. That's a colloquialism for what's going on in the region deployed by the United States. The diplomacy is going on around tables in Geneva. Wrap us up on what we learned about today's conversations.
Well, Major, they are serious, but they are happening against a backdrop of very different assumptions on each side about pressure and, frankly, capitulation. On the surface, this was a consequential round. Long hours, indirect talks mediated by Oman, and now a move towards technical discussions, possibly in Vienna. Now, that signals both sides believe there is at least a narrow path to something workable. But underneath that, there is a fundamental mismatch. Washington is still operating, at least in part, on the idea that sustained military and economic pressure should eventually force Iran to fold. Iran, by contrast, at least with the people we've been speaking to, is negotiating from a historical belief that if it does not capitulate under pressure, endurance will improve its leverage. These talks are less about rushing to a deal and more about testing whether the U.S. can really clarify what it actually wants, verification or surrender, and whether Iran believes compromise is safer than resistance. That's why this next phase, if we get to this next phase, is so pivotal. Major.
Setting the table for us tonight brilliantly, Charlie D'Agata and Imtiaz Tyab. I'm grateful to you both. Thank you so much.